Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to this video on the Leo new moon. This is a very dynamic energy that can really disrupt anything in your life that is outdated. Any routines that you feel stuck in that are no longer lighting you up, no longer serving your highest timeline. You're going to become really aware of what those are during this new moon. And since we do have free will, there always is that opportunity to say, I'm going to stay where it feels safe. I'm going to stay in the knowing, or I'm going to have the courage. Leo, we speak of courage, the courage to lean in and create the changes in my life that I know it's time to create. So I'm going to begin with a little background information on this new moon before I share my screen and we dive into some of the dynamic aspects that are also at play. So we are still in Venus retrograde, and Venus is also in the sign of Leo right now as well. And there's a few things that really take the spotlight during a Venus retrograde. So we're going to just review that because it's a good reminder to just explore these different avenues in your life, or you may notice one of these themes is really appearing strongly. So Venus retrograding in Leo is a great time to look at what you value right now in your life. What are your core values, and does your day-to-day life reflect that? So during a Venus retrograde, it becomes very hard to do the things that don't light us up. It becomes very hard to do things out of obligation when we know that our instincts or our intuition are actually calling us in a different direction. And I see this as a blessing because there may be other times where we ignore that intuitive guidance or that inner voice or that part of us that's just like, no, this doesn't light me up. This doesn't bring me joy. And we just push through. But in a Venus retrograde, it becomes very hard to do that. So it's an opportunity to really look at our life and make those necessary adjustments and changes and to really prioritize more joy and more play. So this Venus retrograde in Leo is also a time to look at your finances, and are you putting money toward the things that light you up? Or again, is this something you're doing out of obligation? And I always say when we put money toward things that just like in our spirit seem to light us up, it brings us joy. We don't always know why, but it just feels like, yes, I want to do this. There's something so powerful about that. Really, that can be applied to any area of our life. It may not logically make sense, but there's something within us that's just calling us to take a certain action, to invest in a certain way, and we lean into that. That is really, really powerful. Now, the other theme here is relationships. So any heart healing, especially in the sign of Leo, where there may be deeper forgiveness work that needs to be done, that can come to the spotlight right now. Old relationships that have unfinished karma may come back into our life, and it's that opportunity to bring deeper closure. Now, this doesn't mean that past relationships always resurface, although Venus retrograde is known for that. That can be one of the way it manifests, but it could also simply be something that was unfinished in a relationship that may still be bothering you now is top of mind. So you have the opportunity to really resolve that, to forgive if there's forgiveness work there, or see it in a new way. Just honoring like what that part of you wants to know in order to bring a sense of closure to a relationship, or a relationship that may be ongoing. And this could be romantic, this can be with friends as well. Venus governs over all of those relationships. It could be just something that needs to be discussed in a friendship that's been kind of bothering you, or maybe you didn't realize it was, and Venus retrograde is making you aware that it is taking up space and energy in your life, to really talk that through and bring some kind of resolution to it. So with all that being said, I'm going to share my screen here so you can have the visual, and we're going to dive a little deeper. But I just feel that's really important to keep in mind as we're kind of moving through this new moon, through the rest of August, even into September, that we are working with that energy of Venus retrograde. And there's just so many beautiful opportunities that are presenting through this cosmic shift right now. Retrogrades are not a negative thing when we honor the energy and we know know how to work with them, they can actually be extremely helpful, and they can be portals of time where we experience massive expansion when we know how to co-create with that energy. So let us take a closer look here at this Leo new moon. And you can see Venus is in Leo as well, very close to where this new moon is happening. So we have the sun and the moon at 23 degrees of Leo, which makes it a new moon. Anytime we have a conjunction between the sun and the moon, it is always a time to reset, a time to go within, a time to reconnect with what it is you really desire. It's also a time for restoration as well. So the Leo energy is really placing a spotlight in how you shine your light in the world. And I think we all have these preconceptions around what that means when we hear that term of shine our light, show up fully, take up space. But what I want to encourage you to feel into is, what does shining your light in the world mean for you? What does showing up fully in your power mean for you? That actually can be very different externally from person to person. And this is where some misconceptions can come in around the Leo energy, where we can sometimes think it means like being the center of attention or very extroverted. And shining your light and being all of you doesn't necessarily need to be expressed in that way. It can be a quiet confidence. It can be the courage to just be all of you and not alter who you are depending who you're communicating with or connecting with. Like Leo speaks to all of that. And that is the best gift you can give to this planet, is you being all of you. Because you are a unique expression of source energy. It wants to be expressed through you in a way that honors your blueprint and your truth. So this new moon is really bringing you back to that. Definitely a big theme as well around what lights you up, what you are really passionate about versus what is draining your energy. There's an invitation here to welcome more joy and play and fun in your life, especially with this Venus retrograde happening fairly closely to this new moon energy. Now, in the shadow expression of this energy, this is where we need external validation in order to feel good about who we are, or in order to feel important and worthy. We need other people's approval. We need other people's attention. And if you're in that place, or you've ever been in that place, it's not to make that a negative thing, because of course we want to be loved. Of course we want to be acknowledged. Of course we want to be seen, and we get to have all of that. So what I mean by all of this is, give that to yourself. Like, you are worthy because you exist. You are important because you're on the planet at this time, a reflection of source energy. It's a gift and miracle that you are here. So you are already worthy. You are already important. So it's like taking that off the table. You don't need somebody else to validate you. It doesn't mean you don't get to have that. And if you desire that, there's nothing wrong with that, but don't make that your source. Don't make other people's approval or validation the source of your worth, your happiness, your joy, or your confidence. So that's another thing to explore during this new moon. Where is that happening in your life? So I support many spiritual entrepreneurs, and how this can show up in your business is when you maybe have a really high month in your business, like you made lots of money that month, you feel good. When you have people reaching out saying how much they love you, how much they love your work, you're like, wow, I'm really good at what I do. But if that validation isn't there, you may start to question, wow, are people listening? Are people watching? Am I worthy? And those old questions begin to surface. So you want to practice really locking in the truth that you are worthy, that you are valuable, the message you are here to share with the world is needed, the gifts you have to offer are needed on this planet. You get to have that external validation, but don't make it the source of your worth. So another aspect here is Lilith is conjunct this new moon. I don't always speak about Lilith, but I put it in this chart because it's very significant, where it's like 1 degree away from this new moon energy. So Lilith is the wild goddess. And I love Lilith in Leo conjuncting the sun and moon, like, oh my goodness, this is like a breaking free energy. This is about no longer being able to stay boxed in, no longer being able to dim your light. Like there's a part of you that's just like, it is time to be fully self-expressed in who I am. You're going to feel that so strongly this new moon. Now, for some of you, you may know exactly what that looks like. You may know exactly where you've been holding back and how Lilith energy is wanting to work through you right now. For others, you may just be feeling that energy rising up, but you're not quite sure how to direct it. And that's okay too. Like, don't overanalyze this. Just really get curious about, what am I being called to create right now? What am I being called to express to the world at this time? What lights me up? What brings me joy? Can I practice prioritizing that instead of continually putting it on the back burner and maybe never getting to it at all? There's also something deeply creative about this energy. And we are all naturally creative in our own way. So in my business, I see myself as a creator. That's actually what drives me. I love creating programs. I love creating content. Like that's how I express my creative energy. I have my sun in the 5th house and Mars in Leo. So that energy is very important to me. And the reason I bring this up is I encourage you to look at, what does that creative expression mean and look like for you? What is wanting to be birthed through you and shared with the world at this time? Creativity is not just being a good artist, and it may express in that way. I have many beautiful clients who are extremely talented artists. And yes, that's a way that we can channel wisdom and healing and insight and express our creative nature. There are also so many other ways that we can create, and this energy is calling you to create, especially with Black Moon Lilith there. And the reason why I'm feeling this is so deeply creative is Black Moon Lilith connects us to the aspects of ourselves that may also be hidden, that we may have thought are unacceptable to show the world. And it unleashes that as we work with the archetype of Lilith. We become more expressed and we become more aware of the ways that we haven't allowed ourselves to tap into the depths of our truth and our soul. And this can be for many reasons. It's cultural stories that we receive around how we're meant to show up, what our interests are supposed to be. It can be stories we take on as children about what it means to be a functioning adult in the world. So Lilith kind of like doesn't care about any of those stories, and it wants you to just come back to like the wild goddess, your instinctual nature, your truth. So very powerful energy there. And to top it off, we have this stellium here, this new moon squaring Uranus in the sign of Taurus, an exact square. Uranus is the awakener, the disruptor, the rebel. And like any energy, there's a higher octave and a lower octave expression. So we can experience disruption versus awakening in very different ways. Disruption is when we are called to change, but we are resisting it every step of the way. Awakening is when we're called to change. We notice the discomfort our human self may have, but we decide to lean into it anyway because we understand that life is always evolving, life is always changing. And if we try to stay stagnant, we're resisting the natural flow of life. And we're actually just making it harder on ourselves than it needs to be. So what initially appears to be comfort and safety suddenly becomes almost harmful to us. It causes a sense of boredom and confusion as to why we're not achieving or experiencing the things that we want, but really we've just been resisting going with the flow. And like, trust me, I get comfort. My natal moon is in Taurus. I'm all for comfort and safety, but not when it becomes detrimental or I'm called to create change. So for all of us, this is a beautiful opportunity to look at where we are being called to expand and where we may be resisting that, and how we can begin to get ourselves on board with where our soul is calling us. Like, indecision is a way we also stay in this stuck energy. Indecision takes a ton of energy. Like, a beautiful skill to cultivate is listening to your intuition and just like not sitting for long periods of time in indecision, because it does just eventually weigh on your mind and uses a lot of energy. So whether things are yes or no, it's like deciding and then moving forward with it will build really powerful momentum in your life. And it'll also build a strong sense of confidence in yourself and your ability to lead yourself and make decisions that are in your highest and best good. Uranus is also forming a trine with Mars, and I love this energy. So, a little astro background. In astrology, square formation, so we have this red line here, the square between the new moon and Uranus. Squares are points of tension and friction. I always think, I mean, there's never a right or wrong, and we all come in with the exact blueprint we need to achieve our goals. When we have a combination, though, in our birth chart of trines and squares, it's a really beautiful balance of things that flow in our life really well versus things that may initially cause tension, but they invite us to step up in order to grow and expand. So squares cause tension, but if we lean into that, there's incredible growth that happens. Trines are gifts, and sometimes we miss these gifts in our birth chart because they come so natural for us that we actually don't even label it or see it as a gift, but other people do. That's just some astrology, some things to learn about astrology for the astrology lovers here. But getting back to how this is expressed in this chart. So Uranus trining Mars. This is beautiful for that support of expanding your routine. So really looking at where in your life your routine has become boring or mundane, and how can you ignite that spark of passion and joy. It's in those little things, and Mars in Virgo reminds us of that. It's really good at placing the spotlight on the details and helping us create a solid foundation and structure. So I really love this earthy energy of Mars in Virgo trining Uranus and Taurus, because there is this solid foundation for us to lean into. So another way you can explore this is if you are in the midst of creating a lot of change in your life, this can help you be aware of the little details that need to be in place in order to allow that growth and that expansion to move more smoothly and to be more lasting. This can also be an opportunity to look at what are you invited to learn more about right now. Like there's something about knowledge and information here as well. This could be a passion that you have that it's time to dig more deeply into, learn more of the details around it, gaining more confidence in your gifts. There's a few different ways this can be expressed, but the main message I'm hearing from the records around this that fits into the overall energy of this chart is it's about mixing up your daily routine. It's about expanding into something new and having the confidence to do that. It's about saying no to the things that just drain you and are old patterns, old programs are being done out of habit instead of like what you actually desire and what your path actually is. Like this is a big reset back to spirit. Very empowering energies here when we really know how to harness them. The other aspect that's jumping out here is Jupiter is trining Mercury. Mercury is preparing to retrograde soon as well. It's not retrograde at the time of this new moon, though, and it's trining Jupiter. So this also fits into that theme of expanding your mindset, learning something new, or maybe if there is like a topic that lights you up and that you love, this can be digging a little more deeply into the details of it and finding the magic that can be found when we're willing to look beyond the surface. We're willing to look at the details. Both are so important, and naturally in our blueprint, we tend to be geared to one or the other. Like people tend to be more the bigger picture, the visionary, or more in the details, but we can learn to have that balance of both. And I think this chart balances both really beautifully. It's like having that bigger vision, following our heart, following our passions, but aware of like what is needed in order to make these things sustainable in our life, which is often looking a little more closely at the details. So there we are. This is the new moon in Leo. Share with me below, what are you manifesting in this energy? And I'm also going to be doing a new moon ceremony for my Divine Creators Inner Circle. So I'll attach the link below if you want to join me in that space. It's also a beautiful space if you do have a spiritual business that you're wanting to grow and expand, reaching more people with your message, learning how to call in your soulmate clients, all in a way that honors your blueprint. There's beautiful content in there around that. And also around mastering conscious creation as you learn to work in your Akashic records and with your unique astrology. It's a beautiful place. My top digital courses are in there, as well as exclusive content. And we will be celebrating this Leo new moon. All right, so much love to you all. I will see you very soon. Bye for now.